I had slept in worse places, but for now, at least, I had carved out a place for myself. I turned toward the Gilded Mirror over the vanity, planning to wipe away some of the grime, when I froze. It wasn't the dust that was the problem. It was the reflection itself. The glass, though clouded, wasn't just showing me shadows. It was showing a corridor behind me that wasn't there. And standing in that impossible space, watching me with chilling possessiveness, was a dark silhouette with eyes like burning gold. My safe room was not safe at all. Chapter 2. The carriage rattled over the uneven road, jolting me with every rut and stone hidden beneath the thickening fog. The driver said little, his eyes fixed ahead, shoulders hunched, as if to ward off some unseen presence. I didn't mind the silence. It allowed me to listen to the hushed sound of the wind curling through the trees, the distant hoot of an owl, the rhythmic clatter of hooves against damp earth. And beneath it all, something else. A hum, low and insidious, barely more than a breath against my bones. I tightened my grip on my satchel, my fingers brushing the cool metal of the dagger tucked inside. Then the trees parted, and there it was, Ravenspire. The castle loomed before me, a black silhouette against the murky sky. Its towers clawed upward, aged as broken teeth, disappearing into the mist that curled thick around its walls. Ivy clung to the stone like skeletal fingers, twisted and gnarled, as if the very earth sought to reclaim what had been abandoned. The windows yawned like empty sockets, dark and hollow, their glass long shattered or clouded with age. A single lantern flickered near the front entrance, its feeble glow swallowed by the immense shadow of the castle itself. The iron gates stood slightly ajar, groaning softly as the wind stirred them. The sensation against my ribs deepened. Not merely unease, no, something here watched, waited. The horses slowed, the driver shifting uneasily in his seat. "This is as far as I go, madam," he muttered. He didn't look at me. His hands already gripped the reins tighter, ready to turn back the moment I stepped out. I smirked. "Not staying for tea then?" The man paled. I smiled. I took my time gathering my things, letting the moment stretch, and feeling the weight of the castle settle over me. It wanted me to leave. That much was clear in the howl of the wind through the stone, the way the ground itself seemed reluctant to let me set foot upon it, which only made me more determined to stay. I stepped down from the carriage, the damp earth sinking slightly beneath my boots. The scent of rain, moss, and something older, something decayed, rose up to meet me. A shiver ran down my spine, though not from the cold. Ravenspire pulsed with something ancient, something hungry. I exhaled, forcing my shoulders to relax, and turned to face the castle head-on. "Well," I murmured, "let's see what secrets you've been keeping." I closed my eyes and let the castle breathe around. I closed my eyes and let the pulse, though not like a living thing. No steady rhythm of life coursing through its walls, no warmth lingering in its stones. Instead, was cold, ancient, layered with the weight of time and memory. I had stood before many haunted places in my time, crumbling manors where whispers curled through the halls, cellars where shadows refused to move, chapels where the dead still knelt in prayer, but Ravenspire was different. It didn't merely hold the past, it was the past, a thing of curses and sorrow, wrapped in ivy and decay. I extended my senses further, reaching for the energy woven into the very foundation. My breath slowed, my skin prickling as I waited for something, anything, to push back. There, a rustle of movement in the air, just beyond my reach. A presence coiled tight, watching. More than one, too. I lifted my chin, keeping my voice calm, steady. "You're not very welcoming, are you?" There was silence to my sarcastic question, but it was the aware kind of silence, the kind that came when something was listening closely. My fingers curled around the cool metal of the locket at my throat, a habit more than a need for comfort. I had faced many spirits before, had called them forth and sent them away in equal measure. Ravenspire didn't want either of those things. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and strode toward the entrance. The lock groaned in protest as I slid the key in the door and turned the rusty mechanism. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, Ravenspire shuddered. A gust of wind rushed past me, though the air had been still outside. The iron chandelier overhead rattled, its chains groaned. The heavy wooden door behind me creaked further open as if reluctant to let me go deeper. The floorboards beneath my boots gave the faintest tremor, then a sigh. Faint, feminine, echoing from somewhere within. I smiled as my magic bubbled curiously inside of me. Ah, there they were. So many spirits. Perhaps it was a trick of the wind, or perhaps it was something else entirely. Now that's more like it. Another sharp gust of wind swept through the foyer, kicking up dust, rattling unseen things in the dark corners above. The house was testing me, trying to unsettle me and send me running back through the door. I was not so easily ruffled. Unhurried, I reached into my satchel, withdrawing a small bundle of dried herbs. I crushed them between my fingers, releasing the bold scent of rosemary and sage into the air. The energy shifted, uneasy now, like a cat with its fur bristling. I could feel a few of the spirits drawn to the herbs, yet something seemed to hold them back. Something dark. Interesting, I mused, ignoring the prickling sensation at my back. The house groaned in response, its bones creaking as if to protest. I slipped further inside, shutting the door behind me. Ravenspire wasn't just haunted, it was alive, and it wasn't pleased that I was here. I struck a match, its sharp flare cutting through the gloom, and touched it to the nearest wall sconce. The tiny flame flickered, struggling against the draft that slithered through the corner. Light spilled over the stone walls, casting long, wavering shadows. The flickering glow revealed intricate carvings along the wainscoting, ivy and thorns curling together, merely swallowing the delicate shapes of roses. I traced my fingers over the raised pattern, surprised by the level of craftsmanship, the detail that had not yet succumbed to time's decay. Ravenspire had once been a thing of beauty, still was, in its own way. I moved to another sconce, lighting it, then another, until the corridor was bathed in a dim golden glow. Then I retrieved a candle from my satchel, set it in a holder, and coaxed it to life with another match. The warm light did little to banish the overwhelming sense of stillness pressing in from all sides. With my candle in hand, I started my exploration. The castle's energy wrapped around me, thick and watchful. Each step I took sent faint echoes skittering through the vast space. Dust motes drifted in the candlelight, unsealed by my presence. I trailed my fingertips along the wooden banister of the grand staircase. The once polished surface was dulled by neglect. The spindles were carved in twisting shapes, almost serpentine, and the stairs curved upward into a darkness that my candle's feeble glow couldn't touch. Above, the ceiling arched high, its beams lost in the shadows. A great chandelier hung there, its crystals coated in dust and cobwebs, though I could tell that when lit, it must have once bathed the grand hall in a cascade of glittering light. My footsteps slowed as I took in the details, the faded tapestry that clung to the stone wall, depicting a garden overrun with brambles, the marble fireplace, its mantel adorned with figures I couldn't quite make out in the dimness, the grand windows, tall and narrow, where the moon strained to push through the grime coating the glass. It was hauntingly beautiful and terribly lonely. Something brushed against the edge of my senses, a ripple in the heavy stillness, a presence lingering just out of reach. Not malevolent, simply curious. Again, however, a spirit avoided me. I exhaled slowly. You don't want me here, do you? The candle's flame sputtered, dipping sideways as if stirred by an unseen breath. I smiled to myself, unfazed. You'll have to try harder than that. As I turned down another corridor, my candlelight stretched forward, illuminating a massive portrait hanging along the wall ahead. My steps faltered. A man stared back at me. The candle's flame trembled again, and for the briefest moment, I could have sworn the man's lips parted, as if he meant to speak. A chill ran down my spine. The corridor felt deathly still. I stepped closer, my light illuminating the edges of the painting, revealing details I hadn't noticed at first glance. The man was breathtaking. His features were cut from elegance and shadow, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and full lips that held the ghost of an unreadable expression. His dark hair fell in careless tussles, the strokes of the artist's brush capturing its richness so perfectly that I could almost imagine the strands shifting in an unseen breeze. But it was his eyes that truly unsettled me. The artist had painted them in exquisite detail, deep, storm dark, with subtle gold flecks, and brimming with something hauntingly alive. There was no glassy vacancy, no stillness that marked most portraits. No, his gaze burned, as though the man inside the painting could see me just as clearly as I saw him. I tilted my head, drawn in despite myself. There was something woven into the brushstrokes, an intensity, a presence, something unnatural. The longer I looked at him, the more certain I was that the man in the painting was staring straight into my soul. A sense of unease crawled over me. I reached out, fingertips hovering just above the canvas, when suddenly the candle's flame guttered violently. A breath of air, cold and sharp as winter, swept through the corridor, and the eyes on the portrait darkened. I stumbled back, heart hammering against my ribs. The chill coiled around me, thick and suffocating, as if something unseen had stirred. I swallowed hard. I had felt spirits before, countless times, but this was something different. This wasn't just a ghost. There was something older, something darker here. The candle trembled in my grip. Slowly, the oppressive cold receded, the hall settling into silence once more. But the portrait remained, and those piercing, impossible eyes never left mine. I exhaled slowly, letting the last tendrils of unease slip away. Whatever had just happened, whatever had stirred when I nearly touched the painting, would have to wait. For now, I needed a place to sleep. Few people understood how important it was to choose the right bedchamber in a haunted house. Most believed ghosts drifted aimlessly through halls and walls, untethered to the rules of the living, but they were wrong. Spirits lingered where the energy suited them. If I chose poorly, if I settled into a room steeped in restless energy, I wouldn't sleep at all. The spirits would keep me shifting, unsettled, my dreams twisting into their memories, and their burdened voices would bleed into my thoughts until dawn. It had happened before, more than once. I had learned, over time, to listen, to feel the pulse of a place. The right room, the safest room, wouldn't be the grandest or the most comfortable. It would be the one where the air settled around me instead of pressing in, where the house itself allowed me to stay. I turned away from the painting and stepped forward. The corridor seemed to stretch long and endless, the silence wrapping around me like a living thing. To anyone else, the castle would feel abandoned. I knew better, though. It was far from empty. Even now, even though I could sense that the spirits were hiding, I could feel them watching. I kept my pace measured, my breath slow. With each doorway I passed, I let my fingers brush lightly against the frame, testing for that subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the air. Some rooms were wrong immediately. One sent a prickle of cold skittering over my skin. Another had a stillness that was almost too deep, as if the space had been folded in on itself, cut off from time. When, at last, I finally found one, the moment I crossed the threshold, I knew. The air inside was thick with dust and disuse, but the pressure I had felt in the hallways eased here. The space felt lived in, not by the dead, but by memory. Long ago laughter, the hush of candlelit conversations, the flutter of silk brushing stone, not untouched by the past, but not claimed by it either. I released a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. This will do, I murmured to myself as I sat my candle down on the vanity. I took in my surroundings. A grand four-poster bed stood in the center, its dark canopy draped in fabric so thick with dust it might have once been velvet. A large gilded mirror hung over the dresser, its surface clouded with age, reflecting nothing but shadow. I turned toward the fireplace, where the scent of old, burned wood still lingered. The grate was cold, the embers long dead, but if I could find some firewood, it would make the space welcoming. I had slept in worse places. But for now, at least, I had carved out a place for myself,